Sebastian, tell them what they're watching. Yeah.
Okay, welcome to a podcast I hope isn't as fuzzy as it looks. We've been out of the game for a while with their equipment and such, but welcome to Popcorn Culture Podcast for popcorn, soda pop, popular media, and other popping things. The holidays very much got away from us, and we've had stuff to do. We haven't done an episode in a while, but we're back, and we hope to do it semi-consistently, maybe twice a month or so. I'm Sage, joined as always by Aaron, Mason graciously hosting us in his house. And as always, we are getting our popcorn and soda from Poppin' on Main. If you're a local in Quincy, do be sure to check it out. Today we've got just classic movie theater buttered popcorn that they always have. After the hiatus, I decided to just be fairly basic with it. So we've got your buttered popcorn from the movie theater. We've got their main mix, their cheddar caramel mix. And this month they have a number of gourmet flavors themed after St. Patrick's Day and Easter, and because I'm a gigantic child, I got the Lucky Charms flavor. It's vanilla popcorn with white chocolate and actual little Lucky Charms marshmallows throughout.
It smells.
There is not a single thing in that sentence that I disliked.
It smells awesome. I wish y'all got smell-o-vision.
And our soda, we kept it fairly basic as well. I just got the frosty blue cream soda. Hopefully, I mean, there still seems to be a lot of sodas to discover, and so I'm excited for that part at least. It seems they do seem to have a finite amount of popcorn flavors, and we've gone through them all. So let's see, is this
I think
I
so.
don't think, yeah, I think so too.
I see an arrow on the bottle cap, so
It'll work out
Well,
good.
you visual aid bit. Denis Villeneuve returns to the director's chair for Dune Part 2, still in theaters, a conclusion to the adaptation of the first Dune book, which he began in 2021, and we covered on this show in the very previous episode. Returning from the first film are just a few of the cast members we met back then. Timothy Chalamet as Paul Atreides, Rebecca Ferguson as Lady Jessica, Zendaya, for real this time, as Chani, who we called Cheney throughout the last video because that's what the lore video we watched called her. It's Chani, as we discovered now.
I'm not mad at that.
Yeah. Javier Bardem as Stilgar, Josh Brolin as Gurney Halleck, Dave Bautista as Robin Harkonnen, and Stellan Skarsgård as Baron Vladimir Harkonnen. And they're joined by a few new key players, Austin Butler as Fade Rotha Harkonnen, Florence Pugh as Princess Irulan, and Christopher Walken as the Emperor. I said his name in an impression of him. That's kind of automatic there. I didn't mean to.
It's hard, dude. It's really hard not to.
That's pretty much it. It's still a great big space opera epic, but we're focused more on the big armies this time rather than the intricate plans within plans that involve the machinations of lots and lots of individuals. Most of those individuals got killed in the last movie, or just happened not to show up again in this one. This being a true work of cinema, as I'm sure we'll get into, Mason wanted me to make sure we acknowledge more than just the director and cast. Villeneuve is joined by one John Spates in screenwriting and producing. Hans Zimmer does the score, always a winner there. And we also wanted to spotlight the cinematography by Grieg Fraser and the editing by Joe Walker, not the same Joe Walker who was Batman in one of our earlier episodes. Boom, we're back. These two guys went to Springfield to see the movie in IMAX. I was going to join them. We had big plans, but at the time, I just made the decision that my dog was old and suffering and had to be put down. So
We wanted to spend time with him.
yeah, that kind of ate up my week that week. And so these two guys, after seeing the movie, they held their tongue quite admirably until they managed to see it again with me. And they've been yammering about how great it is ever since. So I hope they didn't get all their yayas out off camera. And
We did have an hour and a half car ride to discuss what we saw.
yeah, there's that, yeah. And so yeah, let's see. What have we got, gents?
I forget who goes first out of me and you.
It usually just depends on
Just
who has
depends on-
more to say. So
Ah.
if you want to start, go ahead.
Well, I'm gonna blabber on how much I loved it because I did. I loved.
Go ahead.
I loved every single part of it. I loved the whole story process. I loved the continuation. It was a really good part 2 to the first Dune. It went straight into the next show. All of its timeline skipping, it worked perfectly and in sync. Like it just the whole movie worked out great, and then the storytelling was even better. And then like the only thing that was better was the visual aspects of it because the scene locations, the CGI, the animation styles of it, I bet you're gonna love that one.
Probably.
The actors, especially actors, were all just top notch and amazing. And if you can, I suggested watching IMAX because it shook my skull. Like both me and Mason would agree that it literally vibrates you to your core.
Yeah.
When those
There-
sandworms were coming, I could feel it.
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
not just in the seats, like in my skull.
Yeah, and there was still some of that in the regular ass theater. So if you can catch it before it leaves theaters,
Do.
try to do so because it's definitely a cinema event.
Yeah. And the musical score on it
Mhm.
just even made it better because just feeling the drums or the violin score come through and the sound effects, it was just all amazing. And it just the only thing it would be even better if I could get to that point in the book, and I'm not there yet.
I will mention the reason I was insistent that if we could, we try and see it in IMAX, which
Mhm.
for us, you know, where we are, we don't have an IMAX theater. So we had to drive about 90 miles to go to Springfield to see it.
It wasn't bad at all. It was good company. We talked about the first Dune, and then coming back, we definitely talked about it coming back in.
Those are amazing, by the way.
Yeah.
But part of the reason I was insistent on seeing it in IMAX is one of my biggest regrets with this series is when the first Dune came out in 2021, things were still kind of up in the air with the pandemic and all that.
Mhm.
And I kind of fell for Warner Brothers' strategy. I watched Dune in the comfort of my own home because honestly, I wasn't sure if I was going to like it or not.
Mhm.
And so if I was going to go to a theater in 2021 for a film, it had to be a film I knew was going to be amazing.
Mhm.
So like Spider-Man Homecoming, I saw that in theaters because,
You knew it was gonna be missing.
well,
Sure.
yeah, but I also knew I needed to see it,
Yeah.
especially before the internet ruined everything.
No, you mean No Way Home?
That's what I meant. Yeah,
Yeah,
sorry.
no.
No Way Home. No Way
Yeah.
Home. I hate their naming scheme. I love the movies. Hate the naming scheme because I always get it
the
confused.
home. I've called it Far From Home a time or two.
Yes. But anyway, not getting into that. What I was gonna say though is it was one of those things where I knew I was gonna like the movie. I knew I wanted to see the franchise wherever that trilogy was building. I wanted to see it before the internet ruined it for me. And it was one of those things where it's like my only option is to see it in theaters
Yeah.
or wait months and hope to try and avoid the spoilers,
Exactly.
which wasn't going to happen.
Yeah, I think that was one of
So-
the first films I saw in theaters during
Post-pandemic.
the pandemic. I guess
Yeah.
it was still during, I'd say.
So, Dune, well, I had a feeling it was probably going to be good. I had nothing to confirm that for me. Sometimes trailers are really good at selling you on a good concept and then totally screwing you over.
Mhm.
I've fallen for that a couple of times. And so, again, considering where the world was in 2021, I didn't fall for it. And man, do I regret it because I could only imagine how awesome the first Dune in theaters probably
Oh,
looked
well,
and
yeah.
sounded and was.
That's good stuff.
And so when Dune 2 was coming out, and we apologized for our last video, literally as we were recording it, they changed the date on
Yes.
it.
We discovered that. I put it in a comment on the video, but yeah, we discovered that moments after we stopped recording because it was.
Yeah. Again, Warner Brothers, they're plotting. They're plotting against us.
Schemes among scheme.
Yes.
Plans among plans.
Exactly. But so with this one, I haven't seen a film in IMAX in the longest time before this, and so I wasn't sure. But considering that the advertisements were saying it was filmed for IMAX,
Yeah.
I wanted to see it in the format that Villeneuve wanted his audience to try and see it if possible.
Uh-huh.
And so this is one of those things where it's like, I love this movie. I want to support this movie. I want to talk about this movie, and I want to try and see it in the best possible format we could. Which
Yeah.
is why we thought, okay, we'd make an event out of this. Now,
And yeah,
plans didn't go according to plan for all of us.
To this day, I've never seen a film in IMAX. I've seen a ton of documentaries at the Denver Museum in IMAX, but never a film. And
I think the Science Center in St. Louis was the last time I saw something in IMAX.
This is my second time. The first time was in Super IMAX, and I watched Superman.
I was about to say, you better have watched something super.
Yeah, it was Superman. The I forget what year it came out. 2000s.
Man of Steel with
Where he lifts
Henry Cavill.
You know, the actors aren't good for me. One of the actors who played Lex Luthor just had a big scandal.
Oh, Kevin Spacey.
Kevin Spacey,
Yeah.
that one.
Okay,
yeah.
so,
Okay, I know which one you're talking about.
Yeah.
Man, okay.
But that
It was worth it though. 100% worth it.
okay. I'm not saying it wasn't worth it. I'm just saying I remember not liking the movie. But okay.
I personally liked it. It's weird. We're not gonna get into it, but I like it.
Okay. Anyway, so like I said, and that's another thing. If there's another movie we think that absolutely needs to be seen in that format, we'll probably try and do that again. But with this one, I wanted to see it the best way the director intended. And so that's why Aaron and I, and initially Sage, but rest in peace, Sebastian. We decided to go ahead and see it in IMAX.
Yeah,
And first of all, those seats are freaking comfortable. I was
good.
I was happy to have a nice recliner for once. But I also just was blown away with just how amazing of a spectacle this film really felt. Because that's what it is.
Huge.
It's a spectacle. It is a cinematic event, like I think you said, Sage.
Yeah.
And yeah, this was a movie that I am not only happy I saw in IMAX, I'm happy I saw it twice.
Yeah, same.
Because Aaron and I saw it twice when it was time to see it with Sage.
Exactly. And it's a long movie. It's like a 3-hour long movie, but it's a 3-hour art piece.
Yeah.
But I wanted to say something before I lose it. There's an item in the movie called Life Water. And
it's just this color, isn't it?
It's just this color.
I have to wonder if they use this.
Hopefully, so we increase our intellect and let's see into the beyond and see all the parables.
If we survive.
Because
this may be our last pop.
No man can survive it.
Yeah, this was expected from the sand trout.
The water of life.
The maker. But yeah, and so like
I didn't go to the bathroom during Dune 2 during a long movie, and I always overindulge on my soda, but I figured, I don't think I'm gonna want to miss a moment of this.
Honestly, I wasn't even thinking about stuff like that. I was just both times I was just so wrapped up in the film, even after I saw it a second time.
That helps.
I wasn't even thinking about it. I was just so engrossed with what was going on. I wasn't thinking about outside things.
No, but no, I did one time for the second one just to get more drink, but I was thirsty. But this whole movie, like I said, all of it is so good, and the lore of it's even better. And then just the story plot of it. And man, I had his name and I lost him. The guy who plays Stilgar, Javier
Bardem.
Javier Bardem.
Take a shot every time Aaron says story plot when he means to say either story or plot.
And take a shot every time he forgets an actor's name. You'll be sloshed.
That's why I'm losing hair, because everything goes over my head.
Snags on you.
Snags on me.
That's a good one. That's a good one.
But yeah, Javier as an actor, he was so phenomenal. He played Stilgar, like to a T.
He was throwing. Yeah,
oh my gosh!
I was surprised at the laughs he got with his sincerity. Like, I'm still on the fence as to whether that was supposed to be funny, but it was very Life of Brian.
Oh yeah. Well, and I loved it because first of all, Javier Bardem is not the most comedic actor in the world.
No, he's intense and scary.
Yeah, there's a reason to this day I am still kind of uneasy when I see him in films, because after you see him kill a man with a cattle gun, you tend to take notice. And I was mentioning that this is the first time I've seen Javier Bardem and Josh Brolin share a screen together where they're not trying to kill each other.
Yeah. kind of on the same side.
It's refreshing
Yeah,
to see.
yeah.
There are two actors I like. So.
Oh, and when he played Duncan too, man. That was just,
No, he played Gurney.
Oh, he played Gurney.
Duncan was Jason Momoa in the last one.
Oh, yep.
Gurney.
Duncan, Idaho, Gurney Halleck.
Yeah,
There we go.
Gurney was a nice unexpected return because
Mhm.
we didn't know what became of him before, and he's not exactly plot relevant. He could have not
No,
returned,
yeah.
but he makes an impression in the second film, just opening up by singing a little song, as was his, as was an informed attribute of his in the first film, but he never got around to it. He opens up by singing a song about how gross a still suit really is. Yeah, when you think
Yeah.
about it. Yeah.
Well, the thing I really liked about Gurney's character, I guess we're going somewhat into themes and concepts as we were
Yeah.
talking about them,
Sure.
is and this is why I think Gurney, comes back into the plot, is Gurney represents everything Paul was
Yeah.
before he joined
The
the Fremen.
Atreides.
You betcha.
The
Yeah.
Duke,
Yeah,
the
he's all
leader
that
of
remains
the
of House
Atreides.
Atreides, and so
Yeah,
it reminds us of who he was, what he's.
The home planet that he
and
lived on.
in some ways kind of reminds him of some of the more I was going to say modern warfare aspects of what
Yeah.
Paul has. I mean, he literally tells him where to find the bombs.
Yeah. The family
So-
nukes that were passed down from generation to
I
generation.
think pulling Paul more towards that side is part of the thing that inspires him to take the actions he eventually has to take. We'll get to it in a second, but
Which I think works out great for him.
I mean, I'm saying that's why I think Gurney's return is so
So good.
pivotal.
Yeah.
The plot.
Yeah, the
Oh.
actions that ultimately might not be in the Fremen's best interests, the actions that ultimately Chani didn't approve of,
No.
that even.
When your childhood mentor tells you to do it, you tend to listen.
It's also, I don't know if we're not trying to get into it so far, but it's also good, I feel like, for Paul as an Atreides, that he doesn't, his mother's kind of like lost at this point.
Yeah, it was.
He's like,
That was kind of a spoiler warning line if you didn't catch it.
Yeah.
Yeah. So.
like we are going to be spoiling this movie here now.
Yeah, I gotta remember to open with that. Because if you don't open with that, people get mad.
The movie review that we're
Yeah.
doing, but it's part of that. Like everything happens, so only Paul and his mom are left. You find that in the first movie, and then we find out that like his mom really becomes in depth with the Fremen, really becomes in depth with her self as I
A
forget-
reverend mother.
as a reverend mother, Benny Gesserit. And so Paul's kind of by himself he has the Fremen, he has Chani, but he doesn't have anybody else who's part of the Atreides anymore.
Yeah.
And so when Gurney, man, come on, get in there. When Gurney comes back, it's like a life support that a raft just shows up out of a desert sea.
When you think every one of your
family
and your,
friends,
let's face it,
your retainers.
your retainers who are like family to you.
Yeah.
When you think they're all dead, only for one to suddenly show up out of nowhere, of course it's gonna rock your world.
Rock. And I love the part where that all comes together when they first meet. Is that in the book, and I don't know if it said it in the movies. Duke Leto told Gurney, I did say it this time, right? Gurney, to become a smuggler to make more money for the family. To actually go out there and go into certain secluded spots to get spice.
News to me. I don't think that was.
I don't think that was informed in the film. No.
But in the book, it is.
Yeah,
And
I love hearing about the book lore. I haven't read the book, and there were no part 2 lore videos for us to look at. So yeah, definitely. Yeah, anything.
I mean, I saw a couple of like what was changed videos.
Yeah.
Nothing going really in depth like the last one.
Anything you guys know about that, I'm definitely interested in, because I know here in part 2 they changed a whole bunch. I assume had it lead a bit more naturally into the next book for the purposes of leading into the next movie.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And so when we come back to this scene of Gurney, he's smuggling spice. And so the Fremen don't care. You can't be doing this. They stop Gurney and all his spice smugglers. But then we come to see the Fremen attack the caravan. And then who's the first Fremen to attack Gurney? Paul. And Paul goes, I remember your steps, old man. And we
Mhm.
see that callback from the first movie when he has his back to the door. He goes, "You shouldn't have your back to the door. I recognize your steps, though, so I wasn't worried."
Yeah.
And so he recognizes his steps. And it's just a powerful moment of them
Yeah.
coming back together and bonding back together. Two pretty much dead family members coming back to life. And
Yeah.
it's just so good.
Yeah. So let's probably get more into the plot.
Oh,
from
yeah.
the beginning.
I was just teasing them. Yeah.
Yeah. So first of all,
I want to open with before before the logos even begin, we get a subtitled line of dialogue
Mhm.
about
Spice.
about the spice, and we thought it would be followed up on in the film proper, and it was not. And our best guess, Aaron's first thought was that maybe the gin that Stilgar talks about are real, and it was them talking about. But what we concluded is that it was probably the Spacing Guild.
Mhm.
I don't remember how much they were gotten into in the first film. I
Not
just
very.
yeah, I just know that like in the books, unlike the first two adaptations of Dune, they held true to the fact that no one's ever seen a member of the Spacing Guild.
Well, not outside of their suits,
Mhm.
yes. Well, and considering the quote, if I'm remembering correctly, he who controls the spice controls the galaxy.
Yeah.
Well,
Yeah, that classic line.
the
Yeah.
reason it's so critical, if you haven't seen either the films or read the books or anything,
Yeah.
is if the Spacing Guild doesn't have spice, they essentially don't have the means to do the math to make
Yeah.
intergalactic travel possible.
Yes.
And
Yeah.
so whoever has the spice to essentially pay the Spacing Guild has the power to go anywhere into the galaxy and essentially do anything
Yeah.
they want.
Because there's no computers in this universe. You gotta have the spice-fueled mentats to do all the calculations of computers for you.
Mhm.
And it's the Spacing Guild who really overload themselves on the stuff, who do the calculations for light speed. And
So much
and that's why no one's ever seen them. No one's curious enough to possibly offend them enough that they block all intergalactic travel ever.
that and so much of what they've been exposed to in terms of spice has essentially mutated them that they don't even look human anymore.
Yeah.
So no, so they're kind of gross.
Yeah, there's that. Yeah,
Um,
like I said, they were depicted in both previous adaptations.
Yes.
And as they look fairly similar in both films, I assume it's accurate to descriptions from later books in the series.
Well, actually, we did see them in the first one when the envoy comes to tell the Atreides that they're taking over Arrakis. The people in the big bulky dome suits,
Mhm.
those are supposed to be the Spacing Guild.
Well, yeah, but I mean, we've never seen them.
And-
But I mean, they are seen in the previous two
But-
adaptations.
But what I was
Big
what I was
people and
saying,
big
when we were,
tanks.
what I was saying when we were talking about it though is we didn't hear them. We didn't hear them say anything.
Yeah, they
Which is why I thought that may be what they
Part of
sound like, considering again
could be true.
what they're wearing and the
yeah, they are very
sound.
human. Yeah, and it was very alien. Yeah, it's like
Brody.
there are it's like there are no aliens in the Doom universe unless you can't there's alien wildlife like the sandworms, but there's
Yeah.
no alien people. But the Spacing Guild come pretty close. They are former humans who just they don't
Essentially
seem human
mutated.
anymore. Yeah, they're
Oh yeah, because I know what you're talking about because I went on that deep dive in the first one, and they are very disformed. They're very like almost bug looking.
Yeah.
Mhm.
So
But-
so yeah, that was what the film opened with. And
Powerful.
after that,
to get to the actual plot.
We-
I wanted to mention that. Yeah,
so after that, we open with Princess Irulan. Is that how you say it?
haven't checked. I haven't checked how to say it, but that is how you spell it. It's Irulan. Yeah. I don't-
Florence Pugh.
Mhm.
We open with the Emperor's daughter, Florence Pugh, essentially recounting what happened at the very end, that her father, the Emperor, essentially ordered the Atreides family wiped out at the advice, finger quotes, of the Bene Gesserit, saying that they were growing too powerful, too influential, and too obstinate. and he had them all mercilessly slaughtered. Meanwhile, she's playing some kind of space chess with him while Christopher Walken just kind of wanders off thinking, I wonder what's for lunch today.
Yeah, very almost like in the
Look,
home kind of.
Look, I love Christopher Walken, and
Which is
I
good.
mean, the man is a phenomenal actor. He doesn't have an Oscar for nothing.
Mhm.
But it's one of those things where I really saw his age on display, where it looked like you were very limited with what you were going to be able to get out of him. And
Well, hey, I thought the oldness was just acting, so maybe it was really good acting. Yeah.
it's possible. Look, I still loved him, and I still thought he was actually really good as the Emperor.
Yeah.
It's one of those things where when most of the time he's just sitting there kind of staring off into space,
He's very quiet and subdued. Yeah.
which is actually kind of a rare change for most of his characters.
Ex-
throughout
Well,
his
ex- well,
entire
exactly.
career.
That's what makes it a
So-
good performance. He's usually
Yeah.
yeah.
But when you see this actor who's nearly, if not already 80 years old, just sort of looking weak and disheveled, it just kind of makes you wonder how much of that is acting.
But he also
Um,
he fits part of the Emperor because in the movie the Emperor is like 75 years old, so he's
Oh,
around the same age.
Oh,
Yeah,
I think
yeah, it's a-
age. He was age appropriate, but
Mhm.
again, it's just kind of reminding me that a lot of the actors I used to love, even from 10 years ago, are really starting to slow down.
Yeah,
Um,
it's sad when that happens, but no, I think it was just because there's a scene near the end when he's chastising Baron Harkonnen, and he went full walking during that one scene. I will
that
say.
scene freaking rocked.
so
It
good.
really did. It really was.
Oh, God.
That scene was great. But this does bring me to another issue I have though with the film, and that's that Florence Pugh's character, the princess.
Mhm.
I get that they need exposition. I get that they need to find a way to integrate it for the sake of the audience.
Yeah.
My problem is that I didn't get a real good grasp of her character, her motivation,
Mhm.
any objective sense of self from her. It seemed like anytime we were cutting back to the princess, it was to have other people explain things to her,
Yeah.
and by extension, us.
Yeah,
Which there
oh.
are worse ways to do exposition.
Yeah.
I'm
but-
not mad at it, but I wish we could
you
have gotten
know,
more personality out of the princess.
Yeah, you don't put such a good actor in there just for people to
Yeah.
talk at that actor. You know,
Well, and
it's
considering-
I'm sure they're setting her up for later. It's they're
Well, considering how important Princess Irulan is going to be,
Mhm.
especially in Messiah, it really is critical that we know something about her. And the only thing we really know is that she's the Emperor's daughter, and she hints that the actions he took against the Atreides were unjustified.
Yeah, I wish it would.
And she's also freaking terrified of the Harkonnens, as we all should be. But
yeah. So
That's
yeah,
about
it's
it.
not. Yeah, not
do-
not much to. Yeah, it wasn't very much setup of her. She
No.
she was just kind of there, but I mean,
Yeah,
just
which is
sad.
sad.
The very screen presence of Florence Pugh definitely let us know that there is
No.
something coming later there. But I mean,
I will never be angry at seeing Florence Pugh in something. Let's just say that.
Which-
I will always be happy to see Florence Pugh show up in a film
Yeah.
because
yeah, when the Dune film series is done and narrowed down to only the first few that people actually care about, and
the ones that Villeneuve was responsible for probably writing and directing.
yeah, and presumably lining up pretty well with the ones that Frank Herbert actually wrote before his death.
That's the big one.
Yeah, then yeah, as a series of films, Princess Irulan's presence in this film will make more sense. But yeah, right now it's just a lot of setup and seemingly a waste of a perfectly good Florence Pugh.
Yeah, it's not that it's bad. I just wanted more.
Also, it kind of made the princess, I wouldn't say dumb, but less informative than the rest of the characters. in
But
the
I mean,
show.
I get exactly why she's not informed.
Yes,
She's
she's on another
completely
planet,
away
yeah.
from the
Completely
action,
away, but
not 100% involved in the decisions her father is making, finding them out
True.
after the fact. So again, she's a perfect character for
Yeah.
exposition, but I mean, like the moments where she's questioning why the Reverend Mother did that or why her father would take certain actions. I would have liked a little more. What the hell are you thinking? I'm
Yeah.
Florence Pugh.
That's what I'm trying to get. Like,
But
she
we
looked-
didn't get as much of that as I would have
No.
liked. Not a failing of the actress, and overall, again, there are worse ways to do exposition. It could have
Yeah.
been a lot worse.
Mhm.
But
Yeah.
that was kind of a sticking point with me. The second time I saw it, it's like, God, I wish they did more with this character than
Mhm.
just that.
Agreed. Very much so.
I'm sure they did more with her, but just didn't have time to put it in the final cut.
Mhm.
I get
I would
it.
imagine.
And then
But yeah, it's still
as we move on though. But I think the next scene we come is it's on Arrakis,
It's
right?
on Arrakis,
And
and they're evading the Harkonnens who are
Harkonnens.
searching for them.
Paul
and
and
there's is the eclipse that early, like right there at the beginning. There's an eclipse on
I
Arrakis.
think so,
Yeah, I
yeah.
think that's that first
that first scene where
action scene.
comes
kinda.
in and it's Paul wakes up right next to Chani.
He said he wasn't sleeping, remember?
I know, but he says he wasn't. But all the Fremen are sleeping on this dune bank, and they all wake up and they hear something, and so Johnny goes up, checks out. You don't know because you're staying with Paul and his mom because his mom comes over, and so you're in the dark as much as they are, which puts an intensity to it.
Oh yeah.
And so you're like, what the heck's going on? And then the Fremen say some of their native language, and then Stilgar comes up and starts whistling like a bird, and then they all just take off. You're like, what the heck?
Yeah, they just leave Jessica
Just-
and Paul
oh,
alone
And tell them, stay right here.
while the Harkonnens are slowly
Coming
coming
in.
towards
And
them.
they come up the bank, see the Harkonnen floating down, which I will say they did very good at the anti-gravity like special effects in this movie.
Oh, the special effects in this movie overall are
Oh,
just phenomenal.
with
Yeah.
with
Throughout, all yeah,
with the Baron.
not a seam.
Yeah, it's just fluid. It's literally like they just get lifted off the ground like there's no gravity whatsoever.
Mhm.
And so it comes through with these two. They finally take off and hide, and then the Harkonnen are all looking for them, which they have their own still suits, and they look crazy. Those still suits are like big, blocky, and black, which
Mhm.
you wouldn't think would actually be good as a still suit.
You would think.
And it's this scene of intensity and just dramatic, and it's just awesome. And then it gets right into the action. It pops into where I don't want to spoil everything for you because I've already done enough already. It's
Yeah,
just
I don't think we're gonna give them a full play-by-play of every scene, but
then it starts in the fight scene, and the fight scene is always good. It's very guerrilla tactic with the Fremen.
Well, what I really loved about the opening action sequence specifically
Mhm.
is that, okay, it's the first couple of moments of the movie. You know that Paul is going to be okay.
Hope anyway.
You suspect his mom is going to be okay,
Mhm.
but you don't know for certain to an extent. And it's not so much will they get out of it, it's more how will they get out of it.
Exactly.
and yeah,
And I really enjoyed it because even though I knew, okay, they're gonna find a way to get around it, and they did.
Mhm.
Also, badass Mama Bear moment where it looks like Paul's about to be killed, and his mom
Oh,
kills somebody with a rock.
Just
Yeah.
straight up double rock, and handy rock.
It's all and it's all a lot of the appeal of Dune is in the battle tactics and the clever stuff that's there, both clever of the author for inventing it and clever of the characters for using what they have and their traditions.
Which-
Yeah, the battle tactics are something I've been aware of because I watched one of Dominic Noble's earliest episodes was on the 80s Dune.
Well, and this also speaks to Villeneuve's ability to convey the narrative of an action scene.
Mhm.
The reason it exists and how it furthers the story. As soon as Paul gets saved by his mother, what does she say? Never turn your back to an enemy.
Mhm.
Going to show Paul is still making mistakes at this point. He's still very much a teenager who is not always thinking about what's around him.
Because what is he at? Like 16 or 17 at this
Well, in the
point?
book, he's 15, but Timothy Chalamet is like 27 years old. So
yeah.
use your imagination.
Yeah, they just don't.
I don't think it really matters at this point, honestly.
Not really.
But it goes to show, though, that again, Paul he's not
He's
at
an
this
amateur,
point.
yeah.
Yeah, he's an amateur. He's not a seasoned warrior. And that's reflected with the fact that, again, he managed to get one enemy one-on-one after he got to their sword in time.
Oh, yeah.
Killed him, stood there, and was almost taken out if his mom hadn't acted.
Yeah.
Going to, again, showing through that action Paul is still making mistakes.
Exactly.
And it's not just there, it's all throughout.
Mhm.
Another action scene when they're for the first one where they're actually attacking the spice harvester goes to show how Paul and Shawnee's relationship, making sure I'm saying it right.
I would say John sometimes.
It does sound a lot like Johnny. It's like, oh hi Johnny, oh hi Denny.
Yeah.
Oh, hi,
Oh, hi, Mark. But how Paul and
Oh,
Shawnee's
hi
relationship.
Denny, as in Denny Villeneuve.
Yeah.
Denny from the. I'm sorry.
No, it's fine, it's fine. But what I was saying though is the next major action sequence we have is when Paul and the Fremen are attacking a spice harvester. What does that scene show? It shows how Paul and Shawnee's relationship is deepening by how effectively they work together
Yeah.
in combat. Which again, it's such a great way to show why these action sequences not only are they important to the plot, they're important for character development.
Oh, yeah.
And I'm not saying all movies, but I do feel that some movies don't quite understand that sometimes. It's like, okay, audience will get bored, insert action sequence here, and nobody learned anything.
Yeah, it's
That's why
They blew this up because it looks cool, and moving on.
Well, that's what I love about this movie.
what makes an action scene effective is that
Mhm.
it actually does get you from point A to point B.
Yeah, because after this action sequence of that is you forget about they were delivering Jamis back to the original family home of the Fremen this
Mhm.
entire time, and you forgot that Paul had a life battle with Jamis, and
Yep.
and so it gets it back in after this whole fighting scene. Kind of takes you down this religious walk of their lifestyle and how they deal with the waters of life and how they talk about how for them water is life down to a T. You don't spit it, you don't vomit it up, you don't pee it out, you don't do anything to be wasteful with it.
Leading to a great line from Stilgar. You
That's
never
good to that.
waste water even for the dead.
Dead, exactly. And there's even scenes where they're harvesting the Harkonnens water from their own body.
And in some
Yeah.
cases, they're still kind of alive, and it's really unsettling.
Really unsettling and intense, but it makes it more powerful that way. And they're even like, we can't drink this because of all the chemicals, but we can use it for coolant.
Mhm.
Like
For cooling our machines and
Jeez, and he-
such.
so, and he always just has this like little, like just makes everything nicer, just makes everything easier. This
He
like
does, yeah.
he's just like, we're not terrorists, we're like freedom bringers for our home planet.
Well, I wouldn't.
Because they are freedom bringers
The,
for their home
the
planet.
thing, the thing that makes the Fremen so compelling is the fact that they are the people who figured out how to survive on this otherwise
Exactly.
unsurvivable planet.
Yeah. It's like, hey, they didn't have to. They didn't have to. There's all humans come from Earth in this universe.
Yep.
They didn't have, but they figured it out. And yeah, after I'm unclear as to when humans took to space in this universe, but as of this point in the year 10,000 something, after
And
point
so
they've
when
they've built this whole culture out of surviving on a waterless planet with the water you got.
So the fact that they managed to survive on this planet, thrive on this planet, in some ways thrive on this planet,
Mhm.
and then the instant it's worth something, you get people who not only want to take it, but the Harkonnens seem to take sport in killing you.
Oh yeah.
You can totally, absolutely root for the
Well-
Fremen. It is so easy to root for the Fremen because not only are the Harkonnen creepy looking and weird,
Yeah.
but they're just brutal and they're assholes. And
Sound weird.
Beastly, and I
there's nothing there. I like the fact that there are no deeper themes other than just greed.
Yeah.
The idea that
that's I've always liked that kind of villain, ever since Animorphs, I suppose, reading that as a kid, just the kind of villain where if they're in charge and nobody wants to work with you because you're a psycho, but every once in a while somebody has to work with you, and the moment you make a mistake or correct their mistakes or ask a clarifying question.
I mean, Joker
yeah.
has to have henchmen.
Oh yeah, and that was the thing that honestly I really did like about the Harkonnen in terms of their presence on screen is when they showed up, you didn't know who was safe.
Oh yeah.
Totally.
You
Oh.
never knew who was going to be the next one to get it.
At a room full of 10, one Harkonnen, all those 10 people Any one of them could have been
All right,
killed.
for instance, let's talk about the introduction of Fade Rotha, the most prominent new character
Played
in
by
the
Austin
film.
Butler.
Austin Butler, yeah, and it's he's got the same Harkonnen look as all the others, completely hairless, vaguely gray skinned, and he's got some attendants, and he's offered some knives, and he checks them out by just killing a couple of his attendants.
Well, and that was the thing when I first saw it. So in this particular scene, Fade Rotha, it's like his coming of age day or something. I don't know if
Yeah.
they ever say birthday. No, they do say
They
birthday.
do say birthday, yeah. And
But
it's a
anyway,
coming of age ceremony where you fight a gladiator match against some slaves.
yeah,
Yeah.
except Baron Harkonnen, as a means of gifting him, air
Yeah.
quotes, decides.
Gifting him with the opportunity to fight a little harder.
Yeah, he decides that of the three last members of the Atreides household that he still has, or at least he thinks he has, he drugs 2 out of 3 of
Yeah,
them.
you're supposed to fight drugged gladiator slaves,
So
but
you could just kill them for fun.
But he kept one sober.
And gave him a real fight.
Yeah.
But
Go.
what I was gonna say though is
please.
in the scene where Fade Rotha is given the knives for this gladiator event, I thought he was gonna kill the guy who gave him the knives.
Yeah, at first.
And as soon as he's looking at it, I figure
He like touches his
stab right into his head or something. No.
touches his tongue to it, and
He touches his tongue and then slits the throat of the girl standing next to him.
then turns again and then stabs the other girl like 4 times in the stomach.
Yeah.
He's cut. And then it's like, yeah, that's not sharp enough. Make it better.
So that's why I thought, he was going to kill the guy who presented the knives, not the 2 people standing next to him.
Yeah.
Which is just so effective at creeping you the hell out.
Oh,
Yeah, it's sure. You wonder how a villain like that gets anything done, but it's definitely effectively scary at presenting danger.
Yes, and presenting them as a threat. If they are in the same room with your hero, shit's gonna go down.
Well, heck, even Duke himself, the Baron himself, there was even a scene, he has his weird bath moments where he's always in a bath for some
He's
reason.
always in a freaking bath.
But
But
there was-
before you even see him, you hear somebody screaming.
A woman, blood curdling. Kudos to that actress who did that, because she performed her ass off
Oh
for
yeah.
that. Because it sounds like she was literally being murdered. And then you go into the bathroom and there's 2 of them, and one's got her neck snapped and the other one's in a pot of her own blood. And you're like, okay, we're not gonna ask questions. Well, what happened here?
Yeah, the Baron may be a fat-looking slob, but he's more than
He's
capable
brutal.
of killing somebody if he has to.
And then there was a few things, because we're kind of jumping around, but the gladiator fight is just perfect, because the hand-to-hand fighting combat style that they do, it's a mixture between, I don't know any of the fighting styles, but you can tell it's a mixture of different fighting styles, because they were doing knife play, and you could just tell that the slapping and the knife come in real quick. It's just this constant flow of motion of how the fighting choreography was well rehearsed, well played out, and they practiced that to a T, so that nobody got injured, and I'm sure they did with safety measures.
Well, and that
but
goes back to what I
It
said.
looked real.
That goes back to what I said to you guys a couple of days ago. Is the thing I really loved about all the one-on-one fight scenes specifically is, even though they were all choreographed, they were carried out with such a raw emotion to them that they didn't feel choreographed.
No.
Yeah.
The idea that if you gave 2 people a knife and knives and said fight for your life, that is how they would do it.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's something about knives in particular that just really gives a feeling of danger to the scene, because if you have a sword has a cross guard and the blade is very long. You go to defend with a sword, you got some breathing room there. How often, if you defend with a knife, how likely is it that you block a blow with your own knuckles,
Yeah.
Yep, and you have to get up nice and close if you want to do any
Yeah.
damage.
That too, yeah.
That's what makes it so
That's why real knife fights don't last very long.
No.
Usually the knife wins.
That's why, like, in the lore of Dune, is that everybody has their overshields, has their
they didn't use those very much.
They
in
did.
this one,
Yeah, I mean,
honestly.
they even use the laser guns, which are very much a suicidal move when the personal shields are involved. So I don't know why. I don't know why they just. I guess personal shields were only for the first movie, but
no, it's actually in the lore of the book that the shield, the Fremen find the shields disgusting.
Yeah,
And in
like cowardly.
cowardly.
Yeah.
I believe they
And
said
s-
that at the end of the first one.
Yeah, and like only really royalty and military use the shields for that specific reason.
Yeah.
Is that they can't use the laser or projectiles.
Which makes sense. The only time you saw a shield was when you were on the Harkonnen
Harkonnen.
planet.
And then he turned it off as a respect for the fight, which was really cool in a way because you don't really see psychopaths giving respect for another.
Oh, he
This-
didn't give respect. It was more because he just wanted it to be exciting for
Yeah.
him.
Yeah, there's that. And
He did hug him
yeah.
at the
He didn't. Not,
He hugged him.
not because he cared about him.
Came up
And that it just I mean that makes sense. That sounds like a thing the Fremen would believe, that the
Yeah.
personal shield is cowardly. Yeah,
Yeah.
that sounds like something an ancient warrior culture would think of such a thing. Yeah,
That's why
So-
the Harkonnen were also so easy and keen on using like projectile weapons because they knew the Fremen weren't using shields.
Mhm.
That too.
Yeah.
But anyway, moving slightly back to the plot,
Mhm.
when they deliver Jamis back to their essentially their,
Hideout.
I was essentially
Their
going to say
temple
their,
with an Olympic swimming pool in it. Yeah.
well, again, it's supposed to be like
The life waters
the
of all of the Fremen who have died, and they passed that.
they
in.
gave their water back.
They need to figure out another name because there's life water, which looks like this, and then there's the water. Or no, it's the water of life that looks like this, and it's life water, which is where they put all their
Yeah, cool.
deceased.
So
But,
so
I'm just I was it was I don't know it struck me as very strange that the people as practical as the Fremen who put such value on water would have this giant store of water that you never ever use even if you're dying.
Yeah.
That's a very but yeah yeah it's just it's it's discordant, I guess. It just shows just how it just shows how strong their faith is,
What
that
they
that they
believe.
would have something so impractical in defiance of how they
But
live
at
lives
the same,
otherwise.
at the same time, it's the whole idea that this isn't just water. This is the life of those who died.
The
for
life
this.
of
the
everyone,
essence
of
of the-
everyone who's lived. Yeah.
So it's a very interesting concept. But what I really loved is as soon as they get to where they're staying, which I forget the name, but essentially where the Fremen are held up.
in the north, not the south.
Yes, in the north. Stilgar is convinced that Paul is Lisan al Gaib, the voice of the outer world, the prophet who is going to not only get rid of the Harkonnen, but is going to bring life and rain back to Arrakis.
Green paradise, as he says it.
Yeah. And everyone else is like, they're foreigners, let them die in the desert, get rid of them.
Pretty much.
And what I loved is almost immediately, we don't go too far into the inner workings of what their politics are. It moves straight into, I mean, not straight into, but it effectively transitions into how they make their place.
Yeah.
Lady Jessica becomes the new Reverend Mother
Mhm.
by drinking,
Kind of by force.
well, by drinking the water of life,
Yeah.
aka worm piss.
Or
It's we should explain. It is the water that they extract from the sandworms
I
themselves.
don't think it's piss.
They make the joke though. They call it worm piss.
Yeah.
But it's the water they extract from,
From
juvenile.
very young sandworms. Yeah.
Still deadly, but
Which
Yeah.
is the process because they show you the process. And
Oh,
it's really
that-
cool.
yeah, that process is awesome. But
Yeah,
we'll
they
get to
they
that.
gotta drown it. You gotta get way up in there.
Yeah. But anyway, so it's water extracted from the sandworms,
Yeah.
and it's extremely poisonous.
Mhm.
But Bene and Gesserit are capable of,
Yes.
transmuting their body to dilute poison so that it doesn't kill them. Here's the problem: Lady Jessica is pregnant, and now, well, if you read the book and or saw the David Lynch movie, Paul's sister is going to be born with all those freaky powers.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, now because in every
very
previous
smart
version of the
lady.
story, the war lasts a long time, and she gets born and is like some 4 years old, and
Yeah.
but yeah, no, in this version of the story, the it all wraps up while Jessica is still pregnant.
And honestly, I'm okay with
Which-
that because I think it served the entire purpose of what the story is without needing it to be this 3-year campaign that they were
Exactly.
waging. So
I thought it was
I'm kind of
nice
okay
to
with
see
that, honestly.
same. And it's also the process of the life water is also how the Bene Gesserit kind of replace one another. If one does become too old, they do this. At least on the Fremen planet,
They said that their Reverend Mother was
Right.
dying and they needed
Yeah,
a
they
new
need,
one.
that's
they
how
need a
they-
new one, and yeah,
it's how they pass the information of that Reverend Mother down to the new Reverend Mother.
Yeah, the way Jessica described it, she will inherit the memories and knowledge of countless generations before her. She can look forward to pain and suffering and loss
Yeah,
being experienced all at once as she undergoes
it's
this.
either that or death.
So, but yeah, it's that was a really powerful scene though when they realized, oh my gosh, she's pregnant. What the hell did we just do?
Because honestly, they don't know what they did too. 'Cause
Yeah.
it's like one of the first things that they did in this like ever of this whole lore and this story. I almost said story plot. In this whole story, in this whole story that they have, and it's just it's literally I can't think of the word for it, but it's just there. It's just how it is.
So again, that was very effective how they were able to get Jessica to be amongst the Fremen by becoming the Reverend Mother. She and they lead you to, well, they don't lead you, they tell you immediately early on that the embryo inside her, Paul's sister, is now capable of speaking to her through their freaky Bene Gesserit mind powers.
yep.
Very creepy.
Yeah,
Funny sometimes.
but it's very interesting though at the same time. And so what do they decide to do? They decide to prey on people to get them to believe Paul is the chosen Messiah come to save Arrakis.
Baby and a mom decide to do this, and a fetus and a mom decide this plan.
Scheming fetus.
A scheming fetus.
Well, and what I love is how I love how devious it is because you know exactly where Lady Jessica is coming from.
Oh,
Yeah.
She wants to protect her family after seeing them get wiped out.
And
But
this has been this has been in place for a long time. The Bene
Yeah.
Gesserit gave the Fremen the prophecy that the Bene Gesserit will deliver their Messiah.
Yes,
Yeah.
but at the same time, the idea that she's like, I will prey on the weak and the non-believers who can easily be swayed. The idea that she is doing the right thing for her family in like the most devious way possible. And my God, Rebecca Ferguson, what an actress. I mean, I want to see her in more stuff after this too.
She was
Because
so good.
her character, again, you totally understand why she's doing it,
Mhm.
but you don't like that she is.
She's doing. And then Paul makes that very clear when they come up and talk about it.
Yeah,
Because
Stilgar is convinced it's a miracle that she lived, and he's like, "It's not a miracle. They're right. Any Bene Gesserit can do that."
Yeah.
And then Stilgar still takes us. Oh,
He's
what a
so
humble
humble.
man! Well, he must be the Maladi.
Messiah denies his divinity. Wait, what chance does that give me?
Yeah,
It's
exactly.
almost like Stilgar
Well,
and
and-
the mother were, or what's her name in the movie? Not, I know the actress's name. I forget her actual name.
Jessica?
Oh,
Or...
they're just Lady Jessica. Yeah.
Yeah.
Jessica. It feels like Lady Jessica and Stilgar somehow working together, but work without even talking to each other.
Right.
Stilgar is not working with her. He is that
Belief.
devout in his beliefs. And that's exactly it. He truly believes he's too humble to say he's the Messiah. He plays it with such earnesty,
Mhm.
but considering he's just like, hey, asshole, I'm not you are. It's like, it's hilarious to see that juxtaposition between the two of these actors. Well, and again, that just goes to show how amazing Javier Bardem really is.
Yeah, he's
Playing this man who believes so devoutly.
Yeah, and it's what's it's like we make fun of it, but it's effective.
Oh yeah.
You could tell that this character just really believes this with all his heart, and
keep talking.
but what I appreciate is Shawnee spots the bullshit and calls
Yep.
it out, which is
Yep.
quite different from her portrayal in the books, as I understand it.
Wow, we're on
Can
the
we
same
just say how amazing of a character Chani is?
page. Yes.
Mhm.
And in no small part thanks to Zendaya, but I loved the fact that Chani, when the scene we were just talking about, while Paul's saying she's trained to do that, and Stilgar saying, oh, he's too humble, Chani and her friend are saying, this doesn't mean anything. This doesn't prove
Yeah.
anything. It's
Mhm.
not a miracle. Who cares?
Well, that's like the separation between the Fremen. Even the new generation of Fremen don't have these
They
old
say
beliefs.
the Fremen from the south, like Stilgar, are a lot more
Yes, fuck, man.
fundamentalist and are
Mhm.
more resolute in their belief, whereas in the north they've been fighting the
Fighting the Harkonnens. Yeah,
Harkonnen so long. They are truly of the mind that only the Fremen will free Arrakis,
Yeah.
as well as it should be.
yeah. Supposedly, there's a lot of talk about how the southern hemisphere of Arrakis is uninhabitable, but I mean, there's Fremen there.
Yeah.
So,
Oh, yeah.
I love kind of like a little joke between them. It's like Paul was talking about Stilgar and Shawnee goes, "What? You didn't notice his accent?"
yeah,
Showing that like the very big difference between the two of them.
Well,
yeah. Whereas, most of the Fremen just sound American, and then you got
Well,
Stilgar with this thick accent of some sort. Yeah.
they do mention though that with Paul, especially in the first one, Paul tends to know the ways of the Fremen before he even meets any of them, like how he knew how to put on the still suit or knew aspects about the desert that he wouldn't have otherwise known.
The
Mhm.
Muad'Dib, the desert mouse.
Muad'Dib, the desert mouse,
Like
which later becomes one of his like 9 different names.
Yeah.
But yeah, it goes to show again, he does not know everything, leading to another exchange that I truly love is when Paul wants to prove he belongs with these people and all that, they send him a test to essentially go out on his own in the desert and come back.
Survived for like a week or something.
However, whatever the
Long.
metric was. But the point is, he is essentially to go out into the desert with limited supplies, come back, and he's doing the sand walk, which again, when I saw that, it's like, this is going to be a new TikTok thing.
I haven't seen it yet. But yeah, it should be.
But I honestly thought that it's like, this is going to be a TikTok, isn't it? Hey, I'm in my 30s. I'm allowed to complain. Anyway, but what I loved,
It's a bit like the perfect cast from a Goofy movie, I think. That's what it is.
but what I love is that he's doing what he thinks the sandwalk is as best he can. And Shawnee's like, yeah, you do that like a drunk lizard. You got to break up your rhythm. And he tries to, actually,
the book
but catches himself before he goes through with it.
Oh, and the look that
I've read so many books about. Oh, wait a minute.
yeah, literally.
It's funny in the books that. Never mind.
The look Zendaya gives is priceless.
Perfect.
Oh,
Perfect.
Are you really trying to mansplain me my own damn
my own culture that I've been living my life with?
But you read about it.
But it goes to show the fact that Shawnee is such a well-defined person.
Yeah.
Not a girl who's not a person who happens to be a girl, not the girl for the protagonist, not the girlfriend, not the reward.
No,
not the end goal, a full-fledged character.
The book's from the 60s. And like, would you say Chani is just the girl in the book?
Yeah, kinda.
Yeah, that's the vibe I got from what you said about how she reacts differently to a lot of the things, and that she's just kind of on board with everything. But in the film, she's definitely not on board with everything,
and she's not afraid to let others know it.
Absolutely,
and
she's
it's not
very outspoken.
It's not one of those things like, hey, you're not doing things I like. It's like, this is how they beat us. This is how they keep us down. It's one of those things where she has to say the uncomfortable part aloud, hoping someone will listen.
Yeah.
Sadly, no one does. But it is such a refreshing change of pace that not only does she exist as her own character, I loved how they actually played up how they started to like each other and fall in love and all that. Because honestly, first of all, those two have some amazing chemistry.
Yeah,
but also, I just love the moments where they just talk to each other because it really felt natural and.
Hey, that's the best special effect on film, an actor's face.
Well, it just felt very natural. It felt very sweet, and again, their personalities are just ones where you want to see these people, have everything work out for them. And part of you knows it's not going to happen.
There's that certain part because you feel it's too good to be true sometimes.
I mean, I love the part where she's saying, you come from dukes and great houses. Here, We're just equal.
Equal.
No
Everybody's
differences
equal.
between men or women. And he's like, I just want to be equal with you. I loved that.
Yeah.
I loved that because it is just so sweet.
Well, even the time when she shows up to help him, or like to show up to see how he's doing, she's like, I'm gonna help you because of this. Let me show you the way.
Yeah.
And literally, she showed him the way
Yeah.
of like the whole lifestyle. Of
And anyway,
everything.
which I assume is kind of against the rules because
Yeah.
his whole shtick, his whole thing there was that he had to come back alive, and so but yeah, she was willing to
Help out.
stick her neck out for it.
Well, and
from
again,
the
that
very
led
beginning.
almost seamlessly again into that fight scene I was talking about where they have to take down a harvester and they're cooperating
Oh.
together seamlessly to take down this ornithopter that is trying to shoot them.
Yeah.
So what does Paul do? He runs into the line of fire so she can essentially shoot a missile at it.
Yeah. And he tells her the information that she needs to do to actually take it down too.
Well, and what I loved is after that, when Paul gets two more names, Usul and Muad'Dib,
Yeah.
is he makes it very clear. You've been fighting them for decades. My family's been fighting them for
The
centuries.
Harkins, yeah.
We know how they act, how they think, and how they fight.
Yeah.
Working together, we can rid them and get the planet back to the Fremen.
And speaking of which, because we kind of jumped over this, I wanted to get back to it. During this like kind of time, because we talked about Faye and how he's coming back into it, but we all forget about the other nephew. We forget about
Raban.
Yeah,
He literally inherits the entire planet.
Yeah,
from the
he's in
Baron.
charge of the planet for a while, and he's the one who did this gesture I did earlier. And,
That's literally him. in the
yeah,
movie.
he smashes heads, and I don't know, we found. There was some talk that we found him a little difficult to take seriously because as a completely hairless, gray-skinned Batista, he is a little bit too Drax-like. But I mean, no, I mean it's a very different performance, which is good, and obviously quite a different character. And yeah, no, I mean I definitely obviously I buy Batista as the villain who will kill you. Yeah, that's
Yeah, it is a bit of a shame that his look in this film is so similar.
But he acts
But-
completely different.
Like I said, when it came to any time I saw him on screen, whoever he was around was not safe.
Yeah.
And that's what I
And yeah, I
loved
mean,
about
and yeah,
this.
that's true. And what separates him in that department from the Baron or Fade is that Batista's got the muscles. You really
Oh, yeah.
really believe that everyone
Well-
around him is in danger.
But he's lacking that brain power.
Yes, exactly.
There's
There's
the-
the reason he's called Beast Raban. He's
Exactly.
essentially a starling beast. And what I love is that all throughout the movie, all you see is this building sense of frustration and anger
Mhm.
because he had what, as the Baron said, you have one job: get spice production back to
The
full.
memo is spice rules all. You have to
And-
do spice.
And Paul and the Fremen are absolutely wrecking his
Dude.
day. I
Every
love it.
turn, too.
The
Every
idea
turn.
that every time he's trying to do his one job, Paul's essentially saying, yeah, no, have a missile to the face.
Yeah, pretty much. That's it. Let me put all your guys in one pile and then summon a Sam work.
Yeah.
It's-
Oh man, yeah.
It's
Good
so
stuff.
good.
Yeah.
Sorry, go ahead.
No, I just said good stuff.
Oh, good stuff. Yeah, and then so yeah, it's just I love how he calls the Fremen rats because he's just so desperate. He's just wanting to insult them. He's rats, kill the rats, kill the rats, and it's just this crazy intensity.
Oh yeah.
And it plays throughout the entire movie
It's
until Faye takes over, and then he's like kind of like the runt of the litter, and now there's even the scene where Faye he says, "You bring dishonor to our family," and not dishonor. You have shamed our family, and you bring this. I think this says dishonor, and he kicks him in the stomach, drops him to the floor, says, "Kiss my feet,"
Yeah.
and then he says no, and then he sticks a knife to
Raban's
neck
mhm.
and makes him do it. And it's like, man, what a family.
Well, and
bonding
then
moment.
after he does, he's like, we're even now.
Yeah.
It's a good show of nepotism. He's the boss's nephew, and he's not too bright, and he's screwing it all up. And
Yeah.
I know it's a good example of I don't have a lot of patience for just the stupid villain is always someone that people go oh and want them to be a good guy, and like that's no, in my experience, stupid people are usually evil because they don't think about stuff.
Exactly.
And what do you know? He gets his in this film.
Yeah.
Yep.
But um just kind of shifting gears slightly, we'll talk a little bit more. So yeah, Paul becomes one with the Fremen and essentially starts leading them to victory over the Harkonnen and destroying spice operations. What I love next is when we get to the Harkonnen planet.
Oh
The
yeah.
Harkonnen planet has probably one of my new favorite scenes in all of cinema, since the planet is circled by a black sun.
Mhm.
Everything on that planet appears washed out. So
Yes.
what looks to be black becomes white, and what looks to be white becomes black, and it's oh my god,
Oh.
it is probably one of the best uses
Oh yeah.
of cinematic storytelling to highlight how this environment exists.
Yeah,
Yeah,
it's you see a similar moment when there's an eclipse on Arrakis and everything's red.
Mhm.
I compare it to Lord of the Rings. It's because they're both masterworks of genre
yeah.
cinema. And what made Lord of the Rings work is that everything seemed super real. There was a lot of detail. What
Mhm.
makes Dune work and to be just as good yet very different is that it uses film as a medium. Everything doesn't seem real at times, and it's
It doesn't seem real,
or
but
on the other hand, it seems like maybe that would be real
Yeah.
on these planets.
it doesn't exist in real life, but it could.
Yeah. And yeah, it uses the cinema speakers to great effect. But maybe that's what it really would sound like if a sandworm approaches. Yeah.
Oh
Yeah.
gosh, yeah. Dude.
So, and I'm glad you brought up the comparison, because with both Lord of the Rings, we're not counting The Hobbit, with the Lord of the Rings trilogy and what I'm getting with Dune is you have two absolutely phenomenal directors
Mhm.
who understand what film is and how to tell a story with it. And what they're simply doing is they're taking the story that already exists to make an absolutely amazing piece of cinema,
Yeah.
Mhm.
as opposed to let's just make a movie version of the book.
Mhm.
No, let's tell the story
that's
the
gotten-
best way cinema can.
Yeah, so it's like just making the book into a movie has become, kind of more popular since the days of, early Harry Potter, where the internet made people, want well, sure, yeah, people wanted their, I guess in the internet age, the fans would complain about changes
Mhm.
from book to film, and so they made the film super extra faithful, but not much to say in the filmmaking department. And this makes sure that it's a film as well as an adaptation.
Well, and
And
to
it's
give you
cinema.
to give you an example, and this is not to badmouth all of the directors of the Harry Potter films, but there's a reason why most people consider The Prisoner of Azkaban to be the best film in that series. It was directed by Alfonso Cuarón.
Yeah, and
He is
and
another
does
one.
stuff. Yeah,
He is another one
tries stuff.
of
Yeah.
those auteurs who knows how to use the genre of film effectively
Yeah.
to tell the story. Now, when I was a kid, I didn't get it. When I was an adult and I see it now, it's like
I personally
There-
still think that film is a complete bumblefuck, but
Like
Prisoner of Azkaban.
yeah,
I like
Oh.
the word.
for the exact reason that everybody loves it. But yeah,
Well, it goes to show, though, that he was trying to make a phenomenal film using that book, as opposed to here's the book, make it into a movie.
See, one of the books that got turned into a movie that completely failed after it got turned into a movie is Aragon. I think it's called Aragon.
there we go. Yeah, that's yeah. I mean, it's
Oh, they just wanted
Yeah.
just wanted their own Harry Potter.
yeah,
Well,
not a book people like to begin with, but I mean, yeah, it was
Yeah.
rather like. Yeah,
there's
it was
like four
rather
books.
like the Percy Jackson film is, they made a movie that wanted to have its cake and eat it too. And
Yeah.
if Aragon had gotten a sequel, it would have been it would have been unrecognizable because they changed all the plot elements in the first
Exactly.
film that led to the second book. Yeah.
That's why, like, that's why this movie works so well.
Oh
Like,
yeah.
y'all been talking about this whole past time, and I'm just agreeing with you here. It's just they play it so well, they work it so well, and it's like, even though they might change stuff and they don't, and they make take some stuff out, they still it's still such a full movie with everything that they do from shot to shot.
Every change that was made in these two films came from one, what I feel was a desire on the director's part to tell the story effectively and faithfully
Mhm.
in the medium he chose to,
Yeah.
Mhm.
as opposed to, again, here's the book, make it a movie.
Exactly. Which, like I said, they did such a great job.
It's like, most of the time, good filmmaking is the kind where you don't notice it's filmmaking. But
Mhm.
this film in particular, part two, it managed to be the really good kind of filmmaking where you notice the filmmaking.
Oh yeah, but not in a bad way,
And,
obviously.
and also, you get more of that towards the end of this movie. I feel
Well,
like,
and
as
see,
the everything comes together.
the
towards the end.
idea that every planet feels so different from each other. Caladan felt different from whatever planet the Emperor was on, and I say that because I don't know if they actually said the
Nah,
name of the planet.
like,
Now that I think
different.
about it,
Yeah.
to the Harkonnen planet to Arrakis is that every planet has a different sun, different atmosphere, different tone, different building structure, architecture.
Yeah, it's not just like each one has a different Earth biome. It's each one has something that makes it distinctly not Earth-like.
Like a
Yes,
galaxy.
and honestly, that's kind of been my problem with recent Star Wars films. Not talking about the TV shows, don't go nuts about that. I haven't
Mhm.
watched most of them. But when it came with like the prequel series of Star Wars, Coruscant was the city planet. Tatooine was the desert planet.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Naboo was essentially the
Plain planet. 'Cause, like,
plains and lakes planet.
Yeah.
But that was all you saw. And every planet had a yellow sun, a breathable atmosphere, and very similar buildings, except maybe Tatooine.
well,
And it's one of those things where the idea that, again, the Harkonnen planet's orbited by a black sun. Of
Never
course,
heard-
light is going to look different.
yeah.
I don't know if black suns are even things that can exist.
I
Black star.
I don't know.
Are there black dwarf? I don't know.
But
Yeah.
but the point is, the idea
Exactly.
that it has a different colored sun.
You can't come anywhere. Everyone will notice.
Lord. But the point is, the idea that your sun is a different color. It makes sense that things on that planet are going to effectively look.
Lord, I
completely
apologize for
different.
that right there.
Good. Your joke is bad, and you should feel.
Oh,
bad
it felt
about it.
good.
But anyway, that's what I thought was so effective about the idea of going from planet to planet.
Yeah.
You truly knew what planet you were on and how it was different just by looking. And then the rest of the planet is made up by the culture, the atmosphere, the people,
Mhm.
all that.
Well-
That is so well done and
Yeah.
so effective that, again, I think the Harkonnen planet sequence has probably become one of my new favorite scenes in recent cinema.
Oh yeah.
Well, that's the whole reason of the Spacing Guild right there. To further expand and agree with you, is that the reason why they're so different because they are galaxies away from each other.
Mhm.
They're not in the same galaxy. That's why they have the spacing program where
Mhm.
it's literally a portal to two different universes because not different two different galaxies
Yeah.
because
Yeah.
they use the spicing rate. It's not like in Star Wars.
I mean, I think there's a singular galaxy, but
Yeah.
different systems.
But they're
yeah.
they're folding space
Yeah.
across each other.
It's not like in Star Wars
Yeah.
where you pop it in warp drive and you have to wait 5 hours to go 1,000 light years. This is instant, pretty much.
Yeah, instant portals to
Instant portal.
to just wildly alien environments, but not so alien that they're not for humans.
And you
Yeah.
see that actually in the first movie because they show you the spacing rig, and then through the spacing rig you can see
That's right. It
Atreides
is via portal, isn't
via
it? Yeah.
portal, and it's
Yeah.
like that's why the spice is so powerful, and this whole
And
star
why it's
system and
so
economy.
critical, to everyone. Everyone needs it.
Not just the Mentats, not just the spacing rigs, not just the Harkonnen and the Fremen, every single being
They're-
gains from spice.
I'm so glad that oil analogy is so subtle.
I know, but they kind of really max it to the extreme. It's like,
Yeah.
you will die if you don't have this.
I'm not faulting Herbert. It's just if you know anything about geopolitics, you know immediately
Gee.
what spice is an allegory
Yeah.
for.
Pretty much. Because they really hammered it there.
We're still on that for some stupid reason.
Anyway,
But then just how the story plot continues on and just how it keeps building with Paul. Sorry.
I'm sorry to get on your case about it.
No, you're good.
Anyway, so
Like,
Somebody
it's
needs
like,
to.
like how Matt Mercer used to say sigil until everyone got on his case about that.
So, yeah, the Harkonnen planet not only serves the purpose of showing how the Harkonnens live and how brutal their society is.
Inside a giant peanut butter cup.
Yes. Apparently, they decorate inside peanut butter cups, and as soon as I heard Aaron say you said that, the only thing I heard was Guru from Team Forest Star as the Baron. How do you think I got so fat?
Well, that's how the Baron's so bad. He's sending peanut butter cups.
Exactly. How do you think the Baron got so fat? Anyway,
Yes.
Fun fact.
How the Harkonnens live was where you were going there.
so what I love is they go through all of Phaedrotha's coming of age, only for him to be approached by Bene Gesserit, who subjugates him to the same thing the Reverend Mother did for Paul in the first movie, to see could he possibly be a good candidate
For
the Bene Gesserit to carry on his child.
The box and needle thing.
Can they control his child? And could that child be the Kwisatz Haderach?
That's the word.
Mhm.
Kwisatz Haderach.
And so that's the thing that I think is going to prove. The next scene right after they do the Gom Jabbar thing with Phaedrotha, she's talking to the Reverend Mother about how Phaedrotha is violent, impulsive, and a sociopath, but can be controlled.
It can be aimed.
Yeah, and
As all the best psychopaths can.
and then she says the bloodline is secure, saying that she did manage to impregnate herself
Yeah.
with him.
The Bene Gesserit, they have absolute control. They do that.
I guess they realize people have a fetish for the whole space nun thing.
Dude, if somebody control me with the voice as a space nut, I'd let them do it.
Anyway, but again, she said the bloodline is secure, which means one, they want to use the Harkonnens as the Kwisatz Haderach because, well, they said to Jessica, you threw off our plans. Paul's generation wasn't supposed to be the Kwisatz Haderach. It was supposed to be one more generation before they did it. One, two, and this is a biggie. I do think the child of Phaedrotha is going to probably factor in some way in the next film.
Yeah, I mean, heck, there is a cameo by Anya Taylor-Joy as Paul's little sister, who is unborn as this movie. So I'm thinking, they're saving her for later. I think so. I guess the next story takes place many years in the future, and they're gonna bring back Anya Taylor-Joy and a similarly aged Harkonnen heir.
Yeah.
Yep. Well, and that's the thing, to jump ahead a bit to the end of the movie. By the end of the movie, all the main Harkonnens are dead.
No.
Except the child Phaedrotha had.
No.
So,
Because
again, it just reminds me to the Queen of Fables from Harley Quinn. I killed that. He saw me, so I had to kill that guy. And everyone saw me kill that guy, so I had to kill everyone.
Yeah.
Got it in the bloodline. Always in the bloodline. You don't want any revenge killings.
Kwisatz Haderach has to be like a man with the powers of the Bene Gesserit, right?
Yes.
That's a shame, because I'd like to see a Harkonnen woman in action. That sounds terrifying.
Yeah, but I mean, you kind of do with Lady Jessica, as it's revealed.
That's right. Yes, Lady Jessica is the Baron's daughter, and therefore enemy Baron Harkonnen is Paul's grandfather.
what a twist!
Yeah, no, this was actually well done. Don't try and compare apples to whatever Shyamalan is.
And Shyamalan ding dong.
Anyway,
I hate that. Don't do that. He's got a name.
I know.
look, I don't think M. Night Shyamalan is a terrible writer. I think he's come up with some good concepts. I
Yeah.
just thought he got a little pretentious.
He's become a bit of a caricature of himself,
Yeah.
and then there was whatever he did to the Last Airbender, and it's all just been kind of well, you can't go downhill from the Last Airbender movie. It's all kind of plateaued from there.
I have to give him credit. He has never once stopped trying to come up with good films, and he's always tried to. After Last Airbender, he's always tried to push for his own original ideas, and I will never deny someone trying to give us something original.
Yeah.
Keep trying.
But
I
sure.
I have respect for you. It's just not a lot of it.
Yeah.
Anyway, getting back to this movie.
the whole thing with Paul about after he found out, he kind of became fixated on that the Baron was related to the Baron.
Well, it revealed though that at the same time, the
mix-
only way he was going to beat the Harkonnen was by being a Harkonnen.
Exactly.
So anyway, yeah, that is the thing that surely becomes kind of amazing. When Fade Rotha takes over the planet of Arrakis, Fade Rotha, first of all, he's not stupid, and second of all, he becomes a lot more brutal in his tactics, to the point that he's able to find out where the Fremen in the north are hiding, and essentially destroys their entire civilization.
Mhm.
Artillery.
And so throughout the entire movie, Paul has been having these prophetic dreams that if he goes south to where the fundamentalists are, he sees just a
Holy war.
devastation throughout the universe, resulting in billions dead and instigating a holy war in his name. And he doesn't want that. Most people don't want that.
Most.
And so he's been trying to do everything he can to drive the Harkonnen out without coming to that.
Yeah.
Lady Jessica, in the meantime, has already gone south, one for her protection, and two, to again try and convert more people to Paul's banner. And yeah, that leads to the scene where she actually observes how the water of life is extracted from the worm in a phenomenal scene showcasing how they raise the worm, how they extract the water. Great visual storytelling.
And how like the realistic too, because they used a real worm to do all that. Not like a real actual worm, but
The worm
like
was not
prop.
CGI.
It was not
They
CGI.
used a very effective prop to demonstrate
Yeah,
it.
that's crazy because it was wriggling, it was fighting,
it was fighting, and there was so different between the heights of the worm caretaker and Chalamet that you see in the movie.
Well, that was the thing I was pointing out, is that I didn't realize that that actress whose name I didn't catch, but props to you, did such a great job of communicating that. But I also didn't realize, I think that actress is a little person.
Yeah, I don't know that. I mean, she does have
She's either
she does have long limbs, but she's very short.
Alison
Yes.
Halstead.
Halstead.
Click on her profile.
Yeah. She's...
How tall is she?
Yeah, let's see. Okay, so credits. She has 6 credits to her name, and let's see if she's. It doesn't say how tall she is, but
Well,
she is very small.
The way she's shot, she looks like she could be a little person. If
Yeah,
she's
right.
not, I apologize. If she is, again, I was amazed at the fact that I
just to realize only on the second viewing that she's
on the second viewing, and when she was standing next to someone like Chalamet, who's 5'10", that it made me stop and think: is this actor a little person or not?
Yeah.
I don't know, and no judgment, but it was one of those things where it's like, wow.
Yeah, one thing. Yeah, good.
But the biggest thing I was impressed with was just how effective that scene of extracting the water of life was.
Yeah.
Because you don't know, is she going to be able to get the worm in time, or is it going to kill her?
Yeah. I wonder why you don't see juvenile sandworms more often. Like that's the only one we see that isn't several miles long. Yeah.
They did say that they could only keep one at a time, otherwise anymore they'll kill each other.
Mm-hmm.
Kind of like bears.
So that may be why, is that they only keep one juvenile at a time.
Yeah. Well, I mean, in the wild, like you don't see more. Why? You put down a thumper and you only attract the really big ones. Yeah.
Well, even there's the scene where
I don't know.
Paul learns how to ride a worm, and he accidentally calls in the grandfather worm.
Well, I don't think he accidentally did that. I think that's just what happened.
Yeah. It- and so when he brings it in, that's part of the prophecy that he's supposed to bring in one of the biggest worms and be able to ride it, and then he becomes a Fremen in doing so.
So anyway, what I was going to say though is Lady Jessica going south, finding out what the water of life is. She essentially tells the keeper of the worms, the makers,
Yeah.
a man is going to come to you and is going to want to try, and it's forbidden for men to drink the water of life because it's going to kill them. And she insists.
Uses the voice on
She insists, uses the voice, let him try,
it.
knowing it's going to be Paul. And if Paul does this, if Paul drinks the water of life, he will essentially level up his mind powers to the next freaky level where he will be able to essentially see all, do all, and be all, or whatever the prophecy is.
Yeah.
And oh man, is it effective? But it leads me to one of my favorite scenes.
The heartbreak.
Paul comes south after the Fremen in the north have essentially lost their base of operations, have been devastated. He's reunited with Gurney. He knows where the warheads are, the family's nuclear arsenal, but he realizes they're calling for war and they're running out of time. And he knows by himself, and he knows with what limited resources and how devastated they are, he is in no position to win. So he goes south. He drinks the water of life. He has the freaky dream where he sees Arrakis with water and his sister there, played by Anya Taylor-Joy. I don't know. I've been hearing it Anya and Anya. Anya for the longest time. Then the Oscar said it's Anya. Please tell us what it is. I don't know anymore.
Why do you think I don't remember any?
It's like a Lindsay Lohan moment after people spent 30 years calling her Lohan, right?
Yeah, I don't know, but I don't want to go through 30 years of confusion. Just tell us, how do you say your name, please? Anyway, he sees his sister played by the girl from Queen's Gambit who plays Princess Peach. There we go. Anyway, so while he's having these freaky dream powers, everyone's essentially seeing him being poisoned and dying. And it leads me to one of my favorite scenes. Chani comes in, sees him dying, and is like, you did this to his mom. You did this. What can we do? Stop it. Save him. What do we do? And his mother says, Desert Spring Tears will revive him. And it's a callback to a cute scene where they're discussing their various names. And Chani's name, I don't remember how to say it in the language, but it means Desert Spring, and she hates it because it comes from a stupid prophecy. Her tears can save Paul's life. And she's like, this is what you wanted. Why would I do it? Leading Lady Jessica to use the voice on her to get her tears to save Paul's life. The idea that the prophecy that the tears of the Desert Spring will save the voice of the outer world only happened because she was forced to.
Yeah. So
it is such an effective scene. It is so amazing to see Zendaya play this woman who is so hurt that the man she loves not only is dying, but is dying due to the machinations of people from other worlds inflicting their prophecies on people. And the only way the prophecy is fulfilled is because the people who made the prophecy are making it happen.
Exactly.
It is so well done, so effective, such an amazing performance on Zendaya's part. I mean, I cannot sing this woman's praises enough. It is so well done. And I love the fact that, again, it called back to information the audience already knew.
Yeah.
Tears of the Desert Spring will save his life.
And it gives you that oh moment.
It's like, oh, so is she gonna use her? And she's like, no.
Why would I do that?
Do it.
They're going to do it. I just love the effects that they use for the voice because how they layer in over like the voices and like the effects, and it just sounds so powerful and almost like it almost as a watcher of the show,
especially in IMAX, Yeah, feel it in your
catches- yeah,
feelings.
it catches you too. You're like,
Oh, yeah.
you should do that too, right? And he's like, no, you just
I did not do that.
no. But for me, it felt like it was
It
grabbing
did.
you.
It
was
did.
supposed
It,
to
it
grab
didn't
you.
feel like someone was in your brain telling you to do
Do
it.
yeah.
So,
It worked very well.
but that may be one of my favorite scenes in the entire movie.
Mhm. Well, even after that happens, Chani even mentions to Lady Jessica, "I wish you good luck, but you already have everything
You
want."
already won your battle.
Yeah, you already won your battle, and so it's like she did it. They did it. They forced it to happen. It happened. Now they're here, and so,
the thing that she's worried about this whole time has been losing Paul.
Mhm.
And Paul said, "You're not going to lose me," but Paul has been afraid of also losing himself
Mhm.
if he goes through with this.
Because is Paul even Paul anymore after the drinking of the life water? Because now he's no longer Paul. And now he's become Muhad'Dib. Now he's become the Bene Gesserit,
The Kwisatz
the
Haderach.
Kwisatz Haderach. He's now become that because the next scene, which it's all power from then on, the rest of the movie is just nothing but power.
Yeah,
Because
Absolutely.
it's literally this.
the Lisan al Gaib, the voice
Was-
of the outer world, essentially shows up and says, "All right,
On a one.
shut up, all ya dangle. I'm in charge now."
so
Yeah, and
cool when he shows up,
that's
too.
the most powerful scene when he's at the center of their leader gathering, and
Millions.
he delivers this speech where Timothy Chalamet manages not only to sound completely unlike himself as he delivers this intense monologue, but he's delivering it in the Fremen language.
Oh,
it's,
yeah.
It's very like Jason Momoa's work on Game of Thrones, where where all of his dialogue is in Dothraki. Yeah.
And what I love as well is they're trying to say, "This is for leaders. You can't be here." And Silgar's like, "I'm weak. I'm damaged. Take my life.
this is the best
Take
chance you
my
can have."
place." And he's like, "No, I will not kill you for the sake of appeasing them.
Yeah.
You will follow me now.
What?
I'm the captain, and you'll do what I say."
Exactly.
And oh my lord, it is so effective.
Oh, he catches everyone's attention.
It is so enthralling to see him finally do the one thing he didn't want to do,
I think he was destined for, but yet didn't want to.
but do it with such conviction, knowing after he recovers from the water of life, he finds out one, Lady Jessica is the daughter of Baron Harkonnen.
Mhm.
He realizes how essentially effed up the whole situation is. And as he says, I only see one way to victory.
Yeah.
And it's essentially to lead the Fremen to a holy war that he's been trying to avoid this whole time.
Yep.
And oh man,
It is just
how awesome is that scene where he essentially knows, he sends a message to the Baron
Mhm.
saying, "I'm here. You want me? Come and
Okay.
get me."
You and bring your ilk with you.
Yeah, and it is so effective
Mhm.
to see all these things converging on each other,
Mhm.
knowing
It's gonna happen.
shit's about to go down.
Yeah, and Paul knew that shit was gonna go down because of the life water. There's even a scene where the emperor's coming in and he goes, "Well, it's good enough for the emperor to come in at a point where he needed to, or when he was supposed to, or something like that." Pretty much foretelling that this was gonna happen, and he knew it was gonna happen because he's now the Kwisatz Haderach.
Yep. Well, and since Paul went south, spice production was able to cut back up to where it needed to be.
Mhm.
And so again, the emperor's like, "What the hell are you doing?
Yeah.
What were you planning?" And that's the other thing. They were hearing from the Bene Gesserit this whole time. The princess was hearing, there are only so many ways your father will stay in power,
Mhm.
leading her to believe that marrying Feyd-Rautha was going to be the only way. She was going to be,
The queen, and he was gonna be.
she was going to remain, she was going to keep her father essentially alive
Yeah.
and safe.
Ex emperor.
The idea that he was going to eventually lose his position as
Yeah.
emperor, and the Harkonnens wanted it that
Yeah.
way.
And as we get close to the end of the show and end of this, it shows really well how bloodthirsty the other houses were.
Oh yeah.
Because there was the threat of the emperor losing his house, and all the other houses were like, "We're getting in on that. We want that motherfucking spot
And
right there."
so when the emperor comes down thinking, you killed Muad'Dib, you got the Fremen taken care of, you
Mhm.
got Spice back up, so why are you plotting to try and overthrow me?
Mhm.
Only for the Sardaukar to cut off the Baron's
Life support.
little life support system, which, oh my god, how I love the fact that after they cut off the Baron and things are going to shit, what does he start doing? He starts crawling
to
towards
the
the
throne.
throne.
Like he's gonna sit on it. It's gonna be
You're gonna
different.
die regardless. Why do you think that's gonna
Oh,
save you?
I'll get there one day. I'll
Can
get there.
I want to give props to Stellan Skarsgård, who played the Emperor so
No,
The Baron.
well, the Baron
Yeah.
so well. His desires, his goals, his plotting, it never felt melodramatic for a second.
No.
All of it felt intentional, driven, and absolutely malicious.
Yeah, like a heart.
Without seeming like a cartoon villain. He didn't go like full Cobra Commander,
Yeah.
you know.
Yeah, it's just with this character, it's so easy. At the previous adaptations did, it's so easy to reduce him to shouting like a lunatic. But no, yeah, I know when he says he's got plans within plans and everyone will know that he's the mastermind, you believe him.
Oh yeah. And again, he's not afraid to kill someone if he has to, if it means getting what he wants,
Exactly.
which is probably more Reese's cups, maybe power. But yeah, it was so effective to see that. But then Paul launches that massive attack.
Oh, with the Fremen.
Oh man, that
Starting off
massive
with the nukes.
and utilizing the Fremen riding sandworms to drive them, then using the nukes, then using Chani and her command. I forget what they're called, but they're fighters.
The fighters.
Yeah.
I want to say Fedaykin.
Fedaykin. Yeah, that's
Yeah,
it.
you're
Fedaykin. The idea that they're using all these things
Desert power.
for
baby.
Paul to use the power of the desert to essentially come in,
Just wipe the
kill his grandfather like the pig that he is,
Mhm.
and essentially say, give his body back to the desert.
Let them have it.
And then you see his body essentially being infested with ants.
And something that, like we talked back to, he has to be a Harkonnen. Something that the Harkonnens are known for is killing their own relatives. He comes up, and,
Yeah.
I'm going to kill you like the animal you are, and just sticks him right in the neck like you do with an animal.
Yep. And then says, just throw him out.
When the whole scene too, when
No harvesting water.
no
No giving him to the maker. Just
back to the desert.
let his body rot.
Let his body be eaten by bugs.
Oh man, as someone who wants to see that character suffer for what he did in the first film, it is so
good.
so cathartic to watch.
And just how, for something that also that like easily the Fremen came in and wiped out the Sardaukar, which were supposed to be the soldiers of the best kind. They just came in and
the most elite soldiers serving directly the Emperor, the same soldiers that they used to kill Paul's family,
Absolutely.
dressed as the Harkonnen.
Yeah.
And
the idea that the Sardaukar were absolutely outmatched.
Yeah.
Oh man, it is that is the example of how to do a climactic battle correctly.
Mhm.
You don't linger on it, but you use it to drive home the point.
Mm-hmm.
And again, I cannot sing the praises of this director enough. He takes his time enjoying the moments that matter.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
While realizing that the moments that don't matter as much are still important, just not as necessary.
Not enough to carry the show.
The movie, yes. And so everything about that finale, I get that people are kind of pissed that it's like, well, it doesn't lead to a true ending. And it's like, no, it doesn't. But it leads to an ending that's
the next movie that's coming.
Well, even if it never got a sequel.
Yeah, I mean, it leads to the end of the book, and it is a conclusion. I will say that.
But
yeah.
it's a very Pyrrhic victory. The idea that yeah, he won this battle, but he stands to lose so much more.
Yeah, and there's the fact that it's a victory for monarchy as a system. That's all. That's always kind of a pyrrhic victory.
Yeah, kind of.
Oh, monarchy.
Monarchy, yeah.
But at the same time, it's not like it's being hailed. They essentially say the great houses have denied your ascendancy.
Yeah, and Chani, of course, is outraged by what Paul's done to
Yeah.
the how he's gamed the system.
Trying
Yeah,
to get the hand
So
of the daughter.
so yeah, that's the real amazing part is that once Paul gets the emperor where he needs him to be, first of all, he tells off the Reverend Mother by saying, "You're an abomination, abomination," using the voice on her,
Yeah.
drawing her back and knocking her down, and telling the emperor, "You killed my father because you're a cowardly piece of shit."
Mhm.
Okay, I'm paraphrasing, but
Pretty
still,
much. No, he pretty much, yeah.
but still, he gives the emperor a chance to essentially defend himself by the whole trial by combat
Mhm.
thing.
Mhm.
Fade Rotha
Becomes the
obviously
champion.
stands in for him, since as much as I love Christopher Walken, I
Yeah,
don't
I
know
don't
if he
think
would.
I don't think he's up for a climactic knife
I
fight.
don't think he would win this knife
I
fight.
would loved it if for some reason he pulled Indiana Jones and he just pulled out a pistol and just shot because he wasn't wearing a shield at the time. So he could have just pulled out a laser pistol and be like, you know what?
I'm not in the mood.
We're done with this. We're done.
But anyway, the fight between Fade Rotha and Paul Atreides, that is the example I was saying
Yeah,
about
Paul.
how, as choreographed as things felt, with the exception of one little spinny jump maneuver, that did not feel like a choreographed fight. It felt like if you took two people who were forced to fight to the death, that's how they would do it.
Yeah, yeah.
If oh man, it was such an effective fight scene, and honestly, for a second there, it really didn't seem like he was going to win.
No,
Mhm.
it really felt like it could have ended any way, and it looked like it was favoring.
Because Fate's good.
Yeah, Faye's a killer.
Well, and Faye is driven by essentially instinct and
becoming the emperor.
well, instinct and psychosis.
Yeah.
Whereas Paul is trying to drive all of his actions through reasoning and rational thought
Mhm.
and what is best to win.
Yeah.
You essentially have two sides of thought,
Yeah.
one driven by ego and one driven by id,
Mhm.
and or super ego, whatever
Well,
the opposite is. It's been a while since
Well,
textbook
that's a-
psychology, but the point is they are two separate parts of rational thinking.
Yeah. But it really shows it too in the very beginning of their fight, right before their fight. Paul actually honors Faye with saying, kind of honors it's have a little bit
I'm
of
pleased to
insult.
meet you, cousin.
That and it's also an insult when he says, "May your chip dull and splinter," and that's kind of an I don't know exactly if it's an honorable way for the Fremen, but it's pretty much saying, "I hope you die." And so
And
then
Faye
does
responds.
does the exact same response, but I think he did it more of a mocking way,
Yeah.
showing that I don't give you respect, but I like what you just said. I hope you die too.
Yeah. And so when Paul eventually wins again,
Mhm.
for now, wiping
'Cause
out
of the
the
trick. Yeah.
Harkonnen house except for himself and his mother.
Mhm.
What does this mean now? He essentially says, "I will take the hand of your daughter and I will become the new emperor."
Yeah.
After he does his foot stomp to make the emperor
Ow.
finally.
The voice of the foot. Boom.
Yeah, that was
So good.
that was a really interesting moment
Yeah,
because
it could read as childish, but it reads as power.
yeah, the fact that he comes up, he presents his ring for the emperor to kiss, and the emperor's refusing, only with that, doesn't need a single word, just that one stomp is enough to make them realize he is not screwing around.
He's done talking.
And in one of the weirdest takes I've seen, the emperor sort of kisses the ring.
Kind of brushes his lips again.
It kind of reminded me of that joke on The Simpsons. We did 20 takes, and that was the best one.
Everyone feels like that a little bit.
That's what
Walking.
That's what that kiss of the ring felt like.
Yeah.
But the idea that Princess Aurelian, however you say it, essentially says, you have bested my father's champion. If you spare his life, I will be your willing bride. Just I will do this. Just don't kill my father. But again, the idea that before Paul even said what his plan was, he went to Chani and said, I will love you for as long as I breathe.
And that's so hard.
And then says, I will take the hand of your daughter in marriage.
Yeah.
Knowing that Paul cannot marry the one he truly loves. And Chani in the book kind of just goes along with it. She gives Paul 2 children and just
she's
goes
willing
along
to be
with
the
it.
concubine, just like Lady Jessica always was.
But in this one, as soon as that happens, and they say, the Holy War is beginning, and the great houses deny your ascendancy, and he's like, "All right, let's kick some ass." Chani is like, "Fuck this, I'm out."
Takes that ring right off and throws it.
Walks out,
Actually, but yeah.
walks out, hitches the nearest sandworm Uber,
Yeah.
and pieces out until the next film. I love the fact that again it ends with that Pyrrhic sense that nobody is truly getting what they want except maybe Lady Jessica.
Oh yeah.
The whole thing I want to bring back about that's the Paul leaving Chani is actually kind of foreshadowed through Lady Jessica and Leto, because it's both they say you have to have an open hand just in case if relationships have to happen between 2 families.
Yeah.
And so that's happened with Lady Jessica, because Duke Leto have to marry an actual royal.
But he didn't have
He didn't.
But
He even chooses not to, because
Yeah,
it shows it in the book too, like how much he cared for Lady Jessica.
yeah.
And then Lady Jessica passes that down to Paul, saying that you have to keep your hand open. And Paul begrudgingly accepts that in the end, like how Mason was saying that.
Yeah.
Monarchy. Oh, about that monarchy.
But again, it is one of those examples that you're not supposed to feel good at this ending.
No,
You're not supposed to. It's not supposed to be a tidy conclusion to everything, because that's just it. War is not a tidy solution to anything.
Oh, that's so true.
And so that's the thing I loved about this ending. Even if they didn't make another one, I got a sense of finality, just not a satisfying one.
Yeah, it's the old Butch Cassidy ending, right?
Kind of.
And then that's that's all you can expect from a war,
War never
if
changes.
not more coming in,
Yep.
more families closing in on you.
So, like I
So,
said,
I mean, there's gonna be more, but it'd be all right if there wasn't,
but again,
it's a good
I
ending to a
cannot
story.
sing the praises of this film enough. Every aspect of it, from again the direction, the cinematography especially.
Cinematography.
Oh man,
Crazy good.
this is one of the most gorgeous films I have seen, and I love the first one. And I think the cinematography in this one is so much better.
Yeah. 100%.
Seriously, kudos to the cinematography. The only thing I didn't think was as good as the first one, I think, was the score. Not so much that I thought it was bad as it felt like the ambience of what was going on in terms of like battles or scenes or whatever lent itself to combining with the score intentionally, obviously, that it didn't sound like I was listening to music.
I was actually going to mention that earlier on, that it sounded more like sounds and vibrations and
Ambience.
and also there was
was a big part of this.
there was
film,
also
for
a
sure.
lot of silence in certain parts, like the first fight scene that we get with the Fremen, with Lady Jessica and Paul and all them. There's no sound.
Very
little.
outside of
The noise.
what is actually happening in the scene.
Yeah.
There's no outside.
There's no ambience music. There's no music in general. It's just you hear lasers, you hear yelling, you hear gunfire, you hear all that, and it makes it more impactful, because when they start falling off the cliff and hitting the ground, you hear them oof, oof. You hear those thuds.
So yeah, and so again, that is not a criticism of Hans Zimmer's scoring.
What there was is just
It's
just not
the
what
score.
this film's audio track was about.
The
It was
score
about
was
sound.
The score was a lot more prominent in the first one, and I love the score of the first one. What music I did hear in this one, I loved. It's the only one where I would say the score the score as a piece of music was stronger in the first one.
And as just to harp on the I was gonna say harp on the Harkonnens, but it's harp on the Fremens. They didn't have any music as a culture society.
Probably not. No.
I don't know.
Yeah, there wasn't like besides Gurney, that's like the only real music we actually got, and it was
Yeah.
a song about
I am very
piss
happy.
in a still suit.
I am very happy they were able to find a way to incorporate that with this
Yeah.
character.
Yeah, just that he's the singing guy.
He's
Yeah.
the warrior poet. Yeah.
Yeah.
And again, Josh Brolin did such a great job with that
Mhm.
character. You really get the sense of the ignorant tourist, as I call it, when he first brings it back with the rest of the Fremen. It's like, what's going on here?
Why is he here?
It's like, why are they doing this? Shut up!
Don't you know your dad's got nukes that we can use to destroy everything? And they all look at him like, what the? But yeah.
Although that was one of the funnier scenes. It's like,
Yeah,
I hit it someplace in plain sight.
Mhm.
That's stupid. Did you find it?
We didn't
No,
look
because
for
I
it.
didn't look for it.
Fremen weren't looking for nothing.
Still stupid. But yeah.
That's pretty funny.
Yeah. And I mean, so yeah, that's the whole movie. That's and I mean,
much.
I don't think there's really anything to sum up. I assume, just A+ all around.
Oh,
pretty
A+,
much.
absolutely,
yeah.
absolutely.
This was
Five
big.
ones out of five, fives out of five.
5 monarchies.
Five monarchies out of
The,
five.
the biggest thing I can say about Dune and the fact that Dune is successful, I want to see the concept of films being made because a director has a clear vision and people are respecting it.
Hells yeah.
Yeah.
And it also goes to show that a film like this, which was so effective, so well made, so just visceral in its storytelling,
Mhm.
was able to be made with half the money most of the Marvel movies have been made, where the effects and everything just look terrible.
Terrible.
It goes to show you don't need. Yes, I'm getting on my soapbox, and you're going to listen to it if you're listening to this. But it's true. What people have been saying is absolutely true. Sinking more money into a film does not make it better.
No.
Trusting the vision of the writer, director, actors, and everyone else who makes it is what makes the movie better.
Exactly.
Start listening to the filmmakers. And if you like the filmmakers and what they have to say, support them,
They always-
obviously.
And just yeah, just remember, just with things with things being controlled by the people who make the financial decisions and not by the actual craftsmen, there's no better way to express that than the fact that airplanes are starting to fall apart across the world.
Mhm.
And we don't know if we're ever going to see Coyote versus Acme. So, again, Denis Villeneuve is one of those directors going forward.
Hey, we talked about Warner Brothers plans within plans. Do you think they're pulling a "you can't come"?
That's what I would hope so, but I don't know.
Yeah,
But
it doesn't
you
seem
know
like they're that clever. No.
But what I was going to say, though, is when it comes to there are certain directors who, when they make a film, I pay attention.
Hmm.
When Quentin Tarantino makes a film, I pay attention.
Mhm.
Scorsese makes a film, especially since considering his age, how many he has left, I pay attention. When Spielberg makes a film, I pay attention.
And these are people who've been around for a very long time.
And now Denis Villeneuve is one of those directors in my book. If he makes a film, I pay attention because I haven't seen all of his films, but of the films I have seen, I have always walked away thinking about the film I made in the best possible way. Not the film he made in the best possible way.
Yeah.
And that is what I want from movies. I want to think about things.
Directorial vision.
Yes, sometimes I want movies that are stupid to make me laugh because I need to kill 90 minutes and I don't want to think about my own life.
Those are my movies.
But at the same time, there are also points where I want films to challenge me.
Mhm.
I want films to make me think. This movie challenged me. I'm thankful for that.
Do you remember when we go back to the first video? I was blubbering about this movie because how much it changed me, and I went into rabbit hole upon rabbit hole upon rabbit hole.
Yeah, you're still
learning the lore.
Yeah, you're
Well,
still discovering the book itself.
And
Yeah.
you're not just learning lore, you're learning themes about politics, about
Religion.
oppression, religion.
But
You know,
monarchy.
propaganda. You're thinking about these things because guess what? They apply to you in the real world.
Yeah.
Exactly. 100% they do.
Like I said, he did not make the allegory very subtle.
No.
So again, this is an example of what I want more films to be like, and I am happy, super happy that audiences responded to this.
Oh yeah, that's
So for the love of God, Warner Brothers, please don't screw this up. Please.
that may be a losing battle. We've seen Warner Brothers the past few years.
It's like I told you guys. As long as Villeneuve is involved in the writing and directing process, I will continue to support it.
Mhm.
The instant he's gone is the instant I stop.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah.
It'll be
Gotta stand your ground somewhere.
yeah,
Well,
that'll be we'll see how far Dune goes with that, or probably only as far as the books Frank Herbert wrote while alive. Yeah.
Again, it's his vision that makes the film so great. And it is the actors and the cinematographers, the editors, all the people who believe in his vision
Yeah.
that lift it up to that level of greatness.
Absolutely, yeah. This was-
If he's not involved, I'm sorry, but at that point, it doesn't matter how talented a cast is.
Yeah.
Mhm.
You can only do so much.
Oh, And
There are so many instances where I see a cast trying as hard as possible, but the script is giving them nothing.
yeah.
Mhm.
Well, that's another thing about this cast. Just not to keep blabbing on again. They have the big heavy hitters of the big celebrities,
Hmm.
but everybody in this cast, even in the smallest roles, were all well
Oh, yeah.
done, well read, well their characters.
Oh yes,
For-
absolutely.
Absolutely.
Even I forget who he is. I could look him up, but there's even a stunt coordinator who plays one of the Fremen, who is part of the fighting scene, so that he could be a part
Yeah,
of
yeah,
the,
he's
the
just part of that,
everything.
yeah.
And
to a
can
T.
we just give credit to how amazing in the industry the stunt community really has been?
Oh,
Yeah, heck yeah.
Especially in a film like this. Hey, Oscars, don't just give them a montage, give them an award. They
Yeah.
deserve it.
Yeah, literally, because it's worth a lot.
But it really watching films like this and like Guardians of the Galaxy 3, it is amazing to see just how far stunts have come.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Even
And
in the
I love
last
seeing-
decade, as computers are becoming more prevalent, that industry is still so critical, so vital,
Mhm.
and still so underappreciated.
What
and it's a damn shame.
what I've been spotting in the MCU is seeing the people who do the stunts keep on getting promotions and
Yeah.
doing raising up higher, because
Yeah.
the stunts are obviously an important part of that franchise.
And when
so,
they are
yeah,
done
they're
well, they are
very done well,
amazing.
yeah.
So we love you, stunt workers. Keep
Yeah.
doing what you're doing.
Yeah, I can do it.
No,
Maybe I could do one stunt, right?
I mean, I play sword fight still outside my property, so I still do random
well,
shit
again,
like
it's
that.
not just the stunt workers, the stuntmen and stunt women, but it's the people who coordinate those things. The
Oh,
people who have the
definitely, yeah.
vision to seamlessly implement it in, the people who can edit those stunts so well. So rant over, but seriously, we love you, stunt workers.
Yeah.
Keep doing what you're doing, and the Oscars have to eventually listen to us.
I think that's why they kind of making that movie Stuntman.
Yeah, that's not the title, but yeah, there is a movie about a stuntman coming up. What was it? Fall Guy?
Fall
Fall
Guy
Guy.
with Ryan Gosling and Emily Blunt, and I actually kind of want to see that because early reviews say it's pretty funny.
Yeah, it looks like fun.
So again, it's not going to make me think super deep, but it's
Yeah.
a movie that if it's made with heart and passion, I'm gonna probably like it.
No, yeah. That's what this movie has. Dune 2, Heart and Passion.
Heart, passion,
Heart
and
and
a
spice.
lot of spice.
Yeah.
Remember, the spice must flow.
Heck yeah. Monarchy. No. But so yeah, it's I think that about wraps this up. I was you saw me scrolling for a while. I just wanted to make sure that I had us a good outro, and that is that next time we do an episode, we will be covering the Rocky Horror Picture Show, which these guys I'm sure are intimately familiar with, but I've never seen.
Oh, that's
I've never seen. So yeah, that's where we're going next with this show, and I hope to get it to you semi promptly. Maybe like I said, we'll try to be doing these things twice a month, and along with other stuff like the regular podcast and any number of fiction projects we have going. So hey Dave, if you're here, thanks for sticking with us, and Yeah,
Just thank
If you like what you heard, please consider supporting us in any way that you are capable of. We
yes, absolutely.
appreciate
Yeah,
any and all
there's
support.
and spread the word.
there's a lot in the backlog, and not as much going on now as I'd like, but we're working on it.
Yep.
Yeah.
That's the definite thing. We're working on it.
Yep.
Hmm.
So thank you so much for watching, and we hope you enjoyed.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
To support Tapas and learn more, visit our link tree. Tapas and Stuff Productions is brought to you by our supporters on Patreon, including Knight Sadie Allen.